Hello, greetings and welcome back to Daily Drive with myself, Bass Driver, here at Paine's Games, where if you enjoy the content, I invite you to leave a like and comment, share this with your friends, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to ensure you get notifications of my latest content. Today's video is going up a touch late as we're being battered by Storm Yoen and the power's been going out, so apologies for that. Okay, buckle up folks, because this is going to be a bit of a longer video today. I'll try to keep it as quick as I can, but towards the end of last week, a couple of pieces of news rolled across my feed that seemed to blow up somewhat across the interwebs, and I want to start off by giving credit where it's due. For the first part to Quinn 69 and Upper Echelon, and for the second part, Smash JT. They've done most of the heavy lifting on the research behind this video, so I strongly recommend checking out their original videos on their channels for much more detailed analyses on both the Elon Musk and the Alanah Pearce situations than what I'll be covering here. I'm going to try and keep this relatively light for brevity's sake, and if you want to know more, then please go check them out. So imagine my utter shock, my catastrophic disappointment and my heartbreaking disillusionment when I found out that son of outrageously rich folk, dad dance extraordinaire and habitual teller of half to non-truths Elon Musk turned out to be lying about his gaming background. As reported on by the aforementioned Upper Echelon and exposed to a deep dive under the eye of Quinn 69, old trust me tech bro Elon has been presenting himself as an intergenerational god tier ranking gamer since the days of Quake. Yeah, that's right. Now, according to Musk himself, he ranked amongst the best Quake players in the world, having taken part in what he initially referred to fairly definitively as the first professional Quake tournament in North America, retconning that slightly later on the Friedman show to what he thought was the first. Okay, so that in itself is no crime. However, under scrutiny, it would seem the most obvious tournament he could be referring to is the Red Annihilation tournament, which itself was not evasive of its own controversy, as the winner, then 19-year-old Dennis Thresh Fong, wasn't insured to drive, and if memory serves me correctly, I don't think he even had a license. I say that because, you see, I'm an old geezer. I remember this tournament because I myself was in fact the #1, no I wasn't, but I was definitely a committed online Quake player back in the day. For context, when Doom came out, my wingman Dominic and I lugged his Amstrad PC over to my house and set that up next to our second-hand family IBM 486 desktop, along with my dad's work Toshiba laptop. Of course, once we got it all there, we realised we had to jerry-rig a null modem cable, but nonetheless 25 minutes later we were deathmatching. Now, this is a bit of a rarity, mainly on school holidays or birthdays, whatever times our respective dads weren't using the PCs, but over the years Dom and I ploughed through Doom 2, Duke Nukem 3D, and obviously got to Quake. The first game we both got at launch and connected via dial-up modem on our newer Pentium P5 Gateway 2000 and Time Machine PCs. Oh god, those things sucked. Software rendering via chipsets, just horrible things. Anyway, the point is, from the first moment we realised I could ping his house phone and start playing online, we were hooked and smashing online multiplayer deathmatches and capture the flags at every opportunity, lapping up Quake 2 and 3 and, for me at least, eventually, the Unreal Tournament series. Through all of this I was definitely aware of Fong. I aspired to competing in that very Red Annihilation tournament even. But do you know who I wasn't aware of and don't really remember at all? Musk, who I believe went under the name Zip4. That may be relevant later. Fong does remember though, as he was heard on the DJ Weep podcast saying, yeah, he wasn't very good, but he was an OG. Now, I had the incredible luck and pleasure of stumbling into a match with a man known as Fatality, Jonathan Wendell, on Unreal Tournament once. And at that point, I was a daily Unreal gamer, maybe 5-6 hours at a time, 7 days a week, and pure team-based. Now, I was hoping to act on that aspiration I mentioned in the professional Unreal tournament that was scheduled that year. Suffice to say, I sucked so incredibly badly in this match with Fatality that I knew that I was way outclassed by actual professionals who had literally every level and each spawn point mapped in their head. Despite consistently hitting the top 5 in a team, occasionally eking out first place on the team in some matches, in my part of the internet, I just wasn't seeing the Matrix or becoming one with the Matrix, as Elon alludes to, particularly when put up against proper badman, you get me. So I posit that Musk perhaps sat at a similar level of mediocrity, whereby in his part of the web, along with the benefit of the team dynamic, he managed to eke out high rankings in his teams, and then they went on to matches that placed him in tournaments wherein he was utterly outclassed. I mean, it sounds plausible, right? But the Red Annihilation tournament was in 1997. Was that not about the time Elon was supposedly running an edgy new startup called Zip2? Zip2, Zip4. Okay, I see what you did there. Ah, yes, yeah. So here is the fast receding hairline of a 27-year-old Elon in 1998, talking to Rita Braver for CBS Sunday Morning about it. Now, he claims he started the company 4 years prior at the age of 23. Okay. And just a year on from that interview, he lost more hair and bought his first supercar. Okay. So the question I have is time. Where did he get the time to put in the hours to be the best Quake player in the world if he was supposedly concurrently putting in the necessary hours one would expect from whipping up a storm across Silicon Valley with his Zip2 startup? Time enough even to buy his first supercar at 28 years old. Interestingly, Quake is featured in that CBS interview too. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. Now, with that bit of history out of the way, we fast forward to today where old Musk, master of the Turkish hair plug, is once again making similar claims relating to Diablo, Elden Ring and Path of Exile 2. Suffice to say, he claimed on the Joe Rogan show that he was in the top 20 of Diablo 4 players in the world. Well, as reported by Quinn69 Upper Echelon, he actually ranks around about the top 50 on an obscure, unofficial, community-run board that may as well be between galaxies at this point, populated by a mere 800 self-submitted speedrunners, wherein he submitted a tier 150 speedrun video featuring no damage indicators, as it would appear that he was using a short-lived exploit that dealt damage in the quintillions. For context, this is a ranking of 800 players out of, checks and notes, 71.6 million total players or subscribers and, checks notes again, 911.53 thousand daily players. Got all that? Grand. Now, add to that the literal internet meme that was Elon's Elden Ring build. Full disclosure, I haven't played any Souls games or Elden Ring, so this is totally not my area of expertise. However, according to those far better versed in the game than I, his build is a total clown of a mage, with intelligence through the roof, which apparently is totally wrong for Elden Ring. Now, why would he suggest such a build? Well, being of his age and of a traditional RPG generation, you know, like D&D and sort of times, I would posit that Elon's logic went along the lines of, mages are a casting class? Casting classes classically need intelligence for mana and dexterity for stamina? Okay, front load them. This adds to the general feeling of disconnect between the perception of Musk's gaming prowess and the reality of his cursory knowledge that belies something perhaps much lamer. Using farmed accounts. Now, why do I say that? Well, this last bit coming from Quinn69, whereby Musk's Path of Exile 2 accounts, one by the name of Kekius Maximus and another by the name of Perseverance. I mean, come on, bar. Those have got to be two of the most obviously farmed account names you could find. Context, again, I did some work as an external indie tester for World of Warcraft, Dungeons & Dragons Online, Forentas, Hercot Chimes, Auto Assault, Face of Mankind, okay, loads of MMOs. And trust me, when these things went live, there was a global revolution in gold and character farming, particularly in the Far East and specifically to this case, Hong Kong. I actually even covered this in a deep dive thesis for my games development degree, which at the point of recording was now something like 16 years ago, okay? So I have seen untold numbers of farmed accounts and their behaviour patterns, so I can smell them on the breeze like Arnie in Commando. Now, these accounts have been hitting the actual official top 100 rankings in PoE2 with feats such as boshing 9 citadels in just 2 weeks. For the uninitiated, this is an unfeasibly tall order. Well, in the midst of all this, it was noticed that one of his accounts temporarily flashed up a username that was traced back to, well, Hong Kong. Now, oftentimes 1 + 1 = 2. I feel somewhat as though this is one of those times. It would certainly appear, based upon the information presented in Upper Echelon Quinn 69's video, that Musk has allegedly been buying farmed accounts from Hong Kong. If true, would people finally start realizing that the guy whose claim of god-tier gaming were a lie, whose attribution for the wondrous innovations of the Tesla company was a lie, whose commitment to his former partner and mother to his spawn was a lie, and whose damned hair on his very head is the most obvious of lies? He might be nothing but a front, a figurehead, and nothing more. Where once it was Gates and Jobs, now it is Musk and Zuckerberg. Except in this case, Musk is now part of the United States Department of Government Efficiency. Mull on that. Ruminate upon it for just a moment or two, whilst we move on to what I feel is a bit of a flip side of the same coin, in Alanah Pearce's apparent insinuation that she was a writer on God of War Ragnarok. Now, I feel that Alanah's case is more of one of a insinuation that she has omitted clarification upon in a fashion that could suggest deliverance given the benefit it could have to her career. Now, based on Jeff's reports over on Smash JT, what I gather from this situation is that Alanah had suggested through a series of posts and or videos that she had been a writer for God of War Ragnarok at Santa Monica Studios, but later seems to have walked that back to a stance of working on a title at Santa Monica, which actually I can attest to as I watched her video about leaving Santa Monica at the time and what she was going to do next. I think it was moving back to Australia. Something like that, I think. Anyway, based on that video, I myself got the impression that she may, and I stress, may, have been working on God of War Ragnarok. That said, I didn't conclude that this was the case, which I think is a factor here. Now, I was a grunt in the gaming industry for almost 2 decades. I know that any given developer or publisher has multiple projects ongoing, of which the public have no knowledge whatsoever. There's every chance she works on some sort of tangential project that, for whatever reason, we haven't seen yet or got cancelled or whatnot. I'm also implicitly aware that one is not always credited for working on titles. It's happened to me for what I personally feel in some cases were understandable reasons, many absolutely not, but again, another story for another time. Now, another back and forth covered by Smash shows her reprimanding someone who questioned her credit on God of War Ragnarok, which apparently seems to have been for accessibility consultant, and it looks like a cookbook. Okay, well, that is working on the project, but again, with this particular instance, I feel Alanah just kind of let the idea that she was credited writer on God of War Ragnarok fly without giving a categorical statement of actually what I was working on is something I'm still under NDA for and obs I can't talk about. Basically a form of misleading by omission and a lack of definitive transparency that leads one to distrust her commentary somewhat. I believe she said that she'd been at Santa Monica for 4 years, so I did a bit of my own digging about projects there, and found that, at least from what I can publicly view, God of War Ragnarok is indeed the last thing on their slate, and I can't seem to find any concrete indications towards any titles or the nature of any forthcoming projects from the Santa Monica development studio themselves, though I believe there are rumours of a OG God of War remake. Not sure about that myself, though not ruling it out. That said, I did notice that in the course of the last 5 years or so, there have been some changes in the leadership and teams at Santa Monica. Now, the studio was originally founded by Alan Becker, who left way back in 2012, following which Shannon Studstill seems to have taken over, all the way up to 2020 when she handed the reins to Yumi Yang and left for a new Google Stadia startup developer run by Jade Raymond. Now, I also noticed there that back in 2016, Santa Monica actually sold Annapurna back their rights, which had passed me by at the time, but there's an interesting little footnote there given what we've seen happen at Annapurna since. Anyway, back to 2020, Shannon Studstill is now with Jade Raymond, and Stadia is going away with Dodo, at which point, in 2021, Jade founded Haven Studios with Sony Interactive Entertainment, investing in them to produce an original IP for PlayStation. Okay, still following me here? Good. Because literally 1 year later, SIE acquired Haven Studios. Sight unseen, basically. I mean, they have literally made nothing. Nothing I can find by way of a published game. And good God, look at this website. There's a whole heap about culture and kindness and fearless opportunities and safe space, and holy crap, pass me the damn bucket, I'm gonna help my pancreas out. Sorry. Not much about games other than apparently thriving on inspiring play, whatever that's supposed to mean. Okay, so back to the point. SIE now own this steaming bag of woke Haven Studios, and they happen to be the makers of, scroll down, oh wait for it, Fair Games, which is basically an ultra woke watchdogs, woke dogs if you will. It has the most unappealing Windows ME clip art marketing aesthetic I think I have ever seen. Oh boy. So, is it not feasible then that this, Woke Dogs, Fair Games, could actually be the title to which Alanah Pearce was inferring involvement in over the past 4 years at Santa Monica? The timeline fits, and the overall high concept and ultra woke themes fit with Alanah's general MO, so could this be the actual project she worked on or wrote for? Genuine question. Again, I'm admittedly looking at this from a fair distance. Perhaps she has addressed that directly and rebuked it somewhere, maybe I've missed something else, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Now, you might be saying, Driver, what's going on? You seem to be defending Alanah here. Well, this is the thing. As I said at the top of Alanah's case, I get the impression that Alanah has potentially misled by omission or deliberately lacked transparency on this issue, as being linked as a writer for God of War would certainly boost one's profile, prospects, and perhaps most importantly, access. There's something I'll probably be touching on in a forthcoming video a little more deeply. You see, if one hadn't heard of Alanah before, if one weren't aware of her history in the field, then one might give her a pass for inexperience, naivete, or misplaced youthful opportunism. Problem is, many of us are aware of her history. I mean, I can't pin down exactly where I first came across her, and I stress this is my memory here, so define for yourselves between my memory and actuality where necessary, but I seem to remember picking up on her name within the fringes of Gamergate 1, mixed in somehow along with Anita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu, Zoe Quinn, possibly Nathan Grayson, I'm not sure. Now, whether my memory is failing me or not aside, what we do definitely actually know from Alanah's recent behaviour is that she has a fundamental problem with honesty, it seems. She lied about Black Myth Wukong's developers crying at the VGAs. I actually called her out whilst watching it. I was looking at the crowd as Astrobot was awarded Game of the Year and immediately said, what the hell is Alanah Pearce doing there in the fifth row? Of course, everyone there was actually smiling and clapping. If anyone were crying, I posit that it would have been the members of the team Astrobot being overwhelmed by, honestly in this gaming landscape, a mammoth achievement for a fairly family-oriented 3D platformer that isn't a Nintendo game. And then there's the theft of Sarah MD's artwork. Long story short, Alanah straight up misappropriated and misrepresented artwork of Sekiro from someone going by the name of Sarah MD as being her own. Then lied further about updating the post with accreditation where it was due. With this in mind, plus the litany of other examples of dubious honesty, lies by omission, lack of transparency, there's no way to defend Alanah. She knows exactly what she is doing. Problem is, she's really, really bad at it. Okay, so this is a long video for a daily driver, I know, so thanks everyone who stuck with me so far, and let's see if I can wrap this up succinctly so you can all get on with your days. Right, so why did I choose these two examples particularly? Well, as I said at the halfway point, I see Alanah and Elon as two sides of the same coin using slightly different methods. Alanah seems to bumble her way through on half-truths and murky details, always leaving the back door of, well, that wasn't exactly what I said, and using the murk to obfuscate her deception, whereas Elon just straight up kicks the door in and lies to our faces without shame, then uses his platforms and influence to silence dissent. He's a confidence trickster on a level P.T. Barnum would aspire to. Perhaps politically, they're both children of extreme wealth, perhaps poetically, they are both children of extreme wealth and or privilege, both taking up arms against the perceived social injustices of the world, but most crucially, they are both liars and grifters of the very highest order. They are the product of the age of celebrity and the Xbox generation. All persona, no character, all talk, no action, all about them, not about us, at all. These are exactly the sort to call out for someone to fight them, physically, then run for the hills when a £10 Vara Dark enters the arena. Alanah is a walking stereotype of exactly the type of tourists who have infiltrated our popular culture pervasively over the past 2.5 decades, all blonde boobs and makeup, looking more like a contestant on Love Island than anyone remotely skilled in games development. Here I would like to make reference to some true women of gaming from my childhood and adolescence. Genuinely fine ladies such as we see on screen here: Roberta Williams, Lorelei Shannon, Amy Hennig and Laura Fryer. Now let me ask you honestly, if I were to show you a photo of the lovely Laura Fryer and one of Alanah Pearce, and with no prior knowledge of the women or their works, ask you which would you have confidence in as a top flight qualified experienced developer, then which would you choose? No, honestly, put it in the comments, who out of these two would you choose? Similarly for Roberta, Amy, Lorelei, would you honestly choose Alanah over any of them? Let me know. However, look at things from the perspective of today's market and the cultural quagmire that has befallen the industry and ask the same question but with this adjustment. Which of these women are easier to sell to a hungry mob of hyper-politicized adolescent simps with access to more money than objective critical consideration? Of either gender, mind, because bear in mind Alanah came out some time ago. Let's be honest, it's Alanah, right? I mean, to quote David Jaffe, she's beautiful, long hair and a pretty face, she's a woman. At the very least, Jaffe, who's also a former Santa Monica employee, is furthering that stereotype through his own admission. Okay, so I'll concede this. Roberta Williams did feature in a hot tub photo for the precursor to Leisure Suit Larry back in the late 1970s, I believe, okay? And she was 100% stone cold hot fox, okay? But the big differences between her and Alanah are twofold: modesty and vast experience and talent. Roberta, luckily for us all, has both, as does Laura, who herself is no slouch with that hot intellectual vibe going on. I definitely know who I'd prefer to spend a day conferencing with. Anyway, I think you can see what I'm saying here. We live in an age where we've swapped meritocracy for celebrity, genius for facial aesthetics, where someone like Alanah or Elon can elevate themselves to positions on a construct of lies, half-truths and deceptions, failing upwards, buying their way to the top of whatever shortlist, ranking system or application process is necessary to get their agenda across. The persona is king, and to hell with all else. Okay, let's wrap this up. We've achieved some twisted peak of Dilbert principle levels, and I specifically mention this not for the obvious element whereby we have found ourselves in a state where the most undeserving are promoted to positions far beyond their capability and understanding, but for something I drew upon in a thesis for my game dev degree that I mentioned earlier, proposed by Laurence J Peter, author of The Peter Principle, which inspired the Dilbert Principle. Now, to paraphrase somewhat, Peter hypothesized on why, how, and upon what pattern corruption would spread throughout any hierarchy or system. Obviously, if the corruption was occurrent from the top, then it would spread right down to the bottom. If in the middle, then it would seep downwards and upwards to a degree before potentially hitting a ceiling once reaching the C-suites or exec branches. Finally, if at the bottom, it's usually quelled and harshly reprimanded, often publicly quite quickly. However, in every combination, Peter suggested, given enough time unchecked, that corruption will spread from root to tip, from whichever point within the organism that it originated. And I would surmise that this is what we see here today. Corruption in the highest echelons, the richest hair transplant recipient on Earth, Elon. Corruption in the middle sectors, Alanah, David Jaffe, the creators, the producers of product. And corruption in the lower sectors, those closest to us, the consumers, that is. That being the media, like Alyssa McCanty, IGN even, Jason Schreier, and so on. To be clear, in this case, I'm classifying this corruption in a puritanical sense, whether that be a practical act or a moral, ethical, political, or even soul-based affliction. More so in the latter force core in these particular circumstances. The infection is absolute, however, and this is why markets across the world, not just games, but music, film, literature, even groceries, beers, dairy, and meat products, are all suffering huge hits as we, the paying public, close our wallets and turn to each other, to citizen journalists, to independent producers, to varying content creators out there for a new way forward. And as some wise old sage recently said, the future will be built on authenticity. Now, I certainly ascribe to that, and I hope you might too. Now, I know this is a huge video, so thank you so much if you've made it this far. It was a lot to get through, and I tried to get as much in as I could in as little time as possible. And as I said at the top, we've had power outages due to Storm Yoan, so it's going out a touch late. But seriously, again, thank you for watching, and if you do want more in-depth commentary, then do check out Upper Echelon, Quinn69, and Smash JT's original videos. Links in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this content, and if you did, please leave a like and comment. If not, leave a dislike, feel free to share on social media, and most of all, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be informed of my next video. This has been Bass Driver from Paine's Games. Thanks again for listening, take care out there, and I'll catch you in the next one.